So, you may have noticed, but a couple of weeks ago I was given the chance to interview Russell Crowe, which was nice. And inevitably, one of the things we ended up talking about was his latest movie, The Pope's Exorcist. Now, despite what you might think, I was under absolutely no obligation to review or even watch the thing if I didn't feel like it. But I've always been a bit of a sucker for a good horror movie, and these days I'm a bit more inclined to pay attention to smaller productions, especially ones that don't revolve around capes and spandex. And when it opened in my local cinema a few days ago, I decided, what the hell, I might as well take a look. But the question is, was it actually worth it? And will it be worth it for you? Well, the answer is more or less. It's a movie I could best describe as The Exorcist, if The Exorcist was directed by John McTiernan. There's a lot of the standard elements you'd expect in a supernatural horror movie: spooky houses, possessed kids turning the air blue, lots of little jump scares, and main characters having their faith severely tested. But it's mixed in with some literally explosive action scenes, a kind of Bourne Identity conspiracy within the Catholic Church, and historical mysteries that have to be uncovered. So yeah, basically there's a lot going on in The Pope's Exorcist, probably a bit too much if I'm honest, but I'll do my best to make sense of it here. So the story focuses on Father Gabriel Amorth, the chief exorcist of the Catholic Church, who gets assigned the most difficult and dangerous cases. He's a man of faith, but he also maintains a healthy dose of skepticism to go with it. By his own admission, the vast majority of the cases are nothing more than troubled people crying out for help or attention. Either way though, his habit of acting on his own authority gets him in trouble with his superiors, many of whom see exorcisms as kind of a relic of a dark age that's got no place in the modern world. But that all changes when Amorth gets assigned to a case in Spain where a young boy seems to have been possessed by a demon that challenges the church's best exorcist to come along and defeat it. And wouldn't you know it, the boy's family just so happened to have inherited an abandoned abbey from a dead relative, because there's always going to be a spooky old building with a dark history in movies like this. Although fuck me, if this is supposed to be the Spanish countryside, then this is downtown Miami. Anyway, so the story revolves around Amorth and a young local priest sent to help him as they dig around the history of the abbey and try to discover the demon's name so that they can exorcise it for good. And what they uncover could shine a light on one of the darkest periods of the church's history and destroy the institution for good. But will their faith be strong enough to overcome the evil that lives in this place, or will their own fears and sins get the better of them? Like I said earlier, there's a lot going on in this movie, both in terms of the script and the emotional tone, resulting in a whole bunch of different elements shoved together into one film, some of which mesh better than others. The opening act gives the impression of a film more or less grounded in reality, with real-life characters that are openly skeptical of what they're seeing, but by the finale, you've got secret underground chambers, centuries-old conspiracies, explosions, and priests battling demons against literal portals into hell. Probably the best thing I could compare this to are the Conjuring movies, which are also loosely inspired by real events and people, but really just use them as a springboard to tell a more conventional Hollywood horror story with all the beats you'd expect in a neatly structured movie. And holding it all together, you've got a hard-drinking, middle-aged priest who cracks jokes and rides a Vespa to his next assignment. I mean, it's different, I guess. Joking aside though, I think Amorth is a standout player in this movie. He's quirky and interesting, he uses humour to make light of some pretty grim situations, and he's a hell of a contrast to the dead serious priest from films like The Exorcist. But he's also a troubled man with dark moments from his own past that he's never quite forgiven himself for, and fair play to Russell Crowe here, he seems to be enjoying himself with this one, able to balance the humour with the more serious and intense moments where he needs to. I also need to give props to the actor playing Henry. He looks vaguely terrifying even before he gets possessed, and the film demands a lot from him, but he's able to show a decent range once the demon takes hold. I mean, it's not the same level as Linda Blair's performance from back in the day, but that was a once-in-a-lifetime event. For obvious reasons, the Catholic Church hasn't exactly distinguished itself in recent years, and all those unsavoury revelations about corruption, abuse and scandal have contributed to negative portrayals in modern media. So it's kind of a refreshing change to see a movie where the main character is a devout and committed priest, a man of faith and experience tempered with compassion and bravery. I mean, that's not to say that the church is painted in a rosy light or anything. There's more than a few references to some of the reprehensible stuff they've done, both historically and in the modern age, but I never got the impression that the movie was out to make any sort of political point. It's just a backdrop to the story, giving context to the characters and the world that they live in. The main downside to such a busy script though is that some of the elements don't get the attention they deserve, and so the big emotional payoffs tend to lack the impact they need. Like, the demon in this case uses your own weaknesses against you, turning past traumas, guilt and regrets into weapons to break down your resolve. It's a neat little mechanic, but the problem is that it's spread over 3 different characters: Amorth, his assistant, and the possessed boy Henry. And with so much ground to cover, each of the revelations feels kinda rushed and glossed over, instead of a hammer blow that fundamentally changes how you view each character. I guess what I'm saying here is that a bit more setup and background to each of these things would have been preferable. Ultimately though, despite having a script that's slightly overstuffed with ideas, and a finale that could use a good strong cup of calm the fuck down, The Pope's Exorcist is a movie that I think succeeds at what it sets out to do. Tell a spooky, supernatural horror story with a protagonist that's clearly set up for future adventures, and have a bit of fun with its concept along the way. It's not going to change your life or anything, but I suspect that it's not really trying to. What it wants to do is entertain the audience, and with a runtime of just over 100 minutes, it manages to do it without overstaying its welcome. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.